Now, whenever a new IPO comes out, investors are generally confused about whether they should apply or not. Now, one document that helps you make this decision very easy is called the RHP, or the Red Herring Prospectus of the company. Now, it tells you everything that you need to know about the company. Now, in this video, we will tell you how to read this document and all the points that are covered there that you should go through in this document as well. So let's get into it one by one. Now, we spoke about the RHP earlier. Let's recap. The Red Herring Prospectus document is a very useful document for investors because it provides detailed information about the company's business, operations, financials, promoters, and the company's objective for raising funds. Now, it also informs the investors about potential risks about investing in an IPO. But what do we look at in the RHP, right? Now, we will cover this with the help of an example. Now, in the previous video, we looked at Burger King IPO. Now, let's look at a different IPO called Kalyan Jewellers IPO. Now, Kalyan Jewellers came out in March 2021. Now, the first thing that we need to focus on is something known as object of the offer. Right now, in this section of the RHP, the company informs everyone about what it intends to do with the capital raised to the IPO. Basically, whatever money it raises in the IPO, objects of the offer will tell why am I raising. Now, the company can use these funds to reduce debt or invest in new projects and expand. Now, in the case of Kalyan Jewellers, the company wanted to finance its working capital requirements. Now, working capital is the money used to cover finances of a company for short-term reasons, right? So, any short-term expenses, working capital loan is required. Now, this is something that's supposed to be paid back within 1 year. Now, the second thing that investors need to look at is the business overview section of the RHP. Now, as the name suggests, this section gives details about the company's business and its core operations. Now, it talks about the different companies' presence in different geographies, in different locations. It also tells you the revenue breakup for different business segment-wise, location-wise revenue breakup, and a lot of information about the business. This section also covers the future strategy of a particular company. Now, the company going for an IPO also describes the strengths of the business in the section of the RHP. Now, let's come back to our example. Now, in the About the Business section of Kalyan Jewellers RHP document, you can find the following things. You will find something known as About the Company and its Operations. You will find different brands of the company. You will find different locations of the showrooms of the company, the entire geographical breakup of the revenue. Now, in the case of Kalyan Jewellers, 78% of the revenue basically came from India and the remaining came from the Middle East. Now, after looking at the business overview section, the next thing you need to focus on is the industry overview. Now, an RHP document of a company carries information about the position of a company relative to its competition. Now, the performance of the industry to which the company belongs is also shown in the document. Why? Because we have to see the future of this industry as well, whether it's good or bad. Now, in the industry overview section of Kalyan Jewellers, you can find out the following things about a particular industry. The global jewelry market size, domestic jewelry market size, factors driving growth of the industry like rapid urbanization, nuclearization of family, good demographics, comparison between Kalyan Jewellers and all the listed peers like PC Jewellers and TBZ. So all these things are listed under industry overview. Now, the business overview and the industry overview gives us the qualitative aspects of the business. However, the story is not complete unless we look at the quantitative aspects. Now, for quantitative aspect, what do we look at? We look at the financial information section. Now, the financial information section is one of the most important sections of the RHP. Why? Because it contains the company's financials. Now, you can go through these statements to figure out the profit and the revenue trend of the company. You can also use them to calculate various ratios that are important like P ratio, what is the return on equity, how is the debt to equity ratio looking like, and all this will give you an idea of how the company has been performing. Now, we will discuss these ratios in detail later, don't worry about that, but they basically inform about the profitability and the safety of a business along with the valuation of the IPO, whether it's overvalued or undervalued. Now, in the case of Kalyan Jewellers, you can make the following conclusions from the financial sections of the RHP. The company's PE ratio is less than the industry PE. This means that the price at which the company is launching its IPO is basically cheaper than the industry average. The company has made a big loss in the first 9 months of FY21 mainly because of COVID-19. The company has a high debt to equity ratio. This means that the company has taken a lot of loan, a lot of debt to finance its existing projects, which is also, by the way, a potential red flag. One of the most important things that investors need to pay close attention to is another section called the risk factors section of the RHP. Now, companies have to list out the potential risks that could impact their business under this section called risk factors. While many of us look at the routine risks that may not be very important for the long run, but there are some risks that you have to read more in detail. For instance, in the Kalyan Jewellers case, you can come across the following risks that investors like me and you should be very mindful of. Now, Kalyan Jewellers had many legal, civil and tax cases against it with a total liability of 449 crores, which is bad, right? The bulk of the company's revenue in India came only from South India. As a result, the business was susceptible to the regional conditions in South India, and any problem that happens in South India would affect this company directly. Now, if an existing competitor said, you know what, I'm going to South India and I'm going to start my business there, that would also affect Kalyan Jewellers. Now, Kalyan Jewellers also operates in an industry that is cyclical. Now, jewelry sales predominantly happen when in the wedding season, right? Also, the industry is in the consumer discretionary space. This means if there's any recession or any downturn or anything like COVID-19, this industry gets severely affected. Now guys, we have covered everything that you need to know about IPOs. Now we will now try and answer the most important question, that is basically, Shashank, how do I apply for an IPO? We'll do that in the next video.